It's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? You people me attack. It's politics time again now. Are you gonna vote now? Deal with love and not war.
Hotep, Abaragani, Alafia. Buenos dias, buenas noches, bonjour, bonsoir, sak passe, wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum, it's your brother, the one Faisal, the Uno Faisal, here on Video Mix for a very special episode. We calling it the politics of South Florida voting, because we are in a very crucial season in the era of politics in these United States of America. And we did not think it robbery that Video Mix didn't come on to go ahead and educate our viewers what's going on, give you some perspectives to look at. Again, I'm the Uno Faisal. Y'all know me, man. We've been around here on Video Mix for a long time, and we have an extra special co-host that's going to ride out with us, man, that's going to help us better understand these politics of South Florida voting. We got our brother, attorney, entrepreneur, DJ, all around yard man. Yard man.
On the ones and twos, brother Faisal. You forgot one though. What about Wagwan?
Which one? Wagwan. Wagwan. Yeah, man. Thank you so much. We can't forget the Yardy crew that's always so represented here in South Florida. Marlon, it's a strange season when it comes to these politics. And, you know, we got a lot of viewers that are out there that are apathetic, that are on the fence. Some are gung-ho. And so we want to have a conversation to talk to all three, the apathetic, the on the fence, and the gung-ho. So Tell the people a little bit, man, about yourself, you know, whatever I may have missed out, so they're a little more familiar with why you are qualified to do this.
Well, you know, Video Mix family, thank you for tuning in. I thought this was going to be the Video Mix request show. So I have a couple of requests on the line for the Faisal. But we want to talk to all three of you, the gung-ho, the on the fence, and the disaffected and the apathetic. You know, I've been practicing law now here in South Florida for 28 years as a business lawyer representing entrepreneurs, creatives, nonprofits as a business lawyer. But in my spare time, though, Brother Faisal, I'm a voting rights protection attorney. So I'm a certified voting rights protection attorney. I volunteer at the polls, poll watching, making sure that every person that believes that they're eligible to vote, that they have the right to vote, right? And our state law mandates certain rights that we have as citizens, right? So whether you're disaffected, whether you're on the fence, or whether you are like me, you know, I got my vote by mail in the mail this week. Already filled out, signed, ready to go. Right. Wow. So I'm part of the gung-ho crew. I don't play around. So I use vote by mail because it gives me time to focus on the voting, poll watching when early voting starts on October 23rd.
Dope. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Marlon, because those are some of the things covered today. We want to cover registration options. We want to cover absentee ballots. We want to cover and go into, you know, your area of expertise, which is voter suppression and then employer rights. You know, I got my Kaepernick, I know my rights hat on today. So, you know, we're getting ready to get into this a little bit more. So in saying that, let me ask you, man, a quick breakdown of the registration methods, which are online, mail-in, and in person. So for everyone right now that if you're not registered to vote, or if you haven't registered for your absentee ballot, there's still some time. Marlon, break that down a little bit, man, as you know, the methods for online, mail-in, and in-person voting and how they can go about that.
You know, out in the streets, right? Before you go to a party, you got to know why and where you're going, right? Right. You got to know your destination. So before you can even register and come up with a plan, Brother Faisal, you know, why should I be voting? You know, why is this so important, right? You know, because, you know, government does two main things, right? Whether it's on the local level in the city of Miami or the city of Miramar, or on the county level, Palm Beach, Broward County, Miami-Dade, or the state level or the federal level. They pass laws that impact us, right? And they pass a budget. And the only way that they can pass these laws and they can pass the budget that execute these policies that we care so much about, is that we have to vote people in to represent us, right? So
Okay.
if you're disaffected or you're apathetic, and you're not giving your power to somebody that you think or believe is going to carry out your best interests or your values, then you're going to be leaving that to someone else, right? So before we talk about the technical process, it's very important for you to understand why it's so important for you to exercise your power, and who you're giving your power, right? So if you have already settled and you know exactly what your why is, what you care about: education, healthcare, criminal justice, issues that impact our youth, quality of life, affordable housing, monies that you need to start your business. There's so many things that impact us.
Legalization of marijuana, if I can add that one, right? The legalization of marijuana, that's a big one. Yeah.
Reproductive freedom. All of these things are important. So once you identify your why, then you're going to figure out, okay, I know my why. Let me find out who cares about my why. And then that starts your process now of saying, okay, I'm no longer on the fence because this why, legalization of marijuana, reproductive freedom, affordable housing, is important to me. So I'm not going to leave that issue on the table and just kind of don't care about it, right? So you got to get in the game. You got to get in the mix. And the first thing that you got to do is register to vote. You got to be 18 years old.
Right.
Listen, and you got to have your rights restored if you have some previous trouble from back in the day, right? And that's once you know that you're eligible, you got to register by October the 7th, right? Monday, October the 7th.
So this show is pre-recorded. I imagine that by the time you all are watching this, you only have a small window right now to be involved in this upcoming election if you're not currently registered. So we're talking to you right now. Marlon, go ahead and get into that part so that if they got their cell phone, they got that QR code that's on the screen, you can go on, you can scan that QR code right now, and it'll take you to the website so that you can register to vote, which is very critical.
Right. And that's
and making it as easy as possible.
That's key.
Go ahead,
so it's easy to do it online. If you previously registered, let's say a couple years back, right, Brother Faisal, and you're disaffected, you're apathetic, you haven't voted in the last couple of elections. You may want to check your status, because they purged over 1 million voters from the voting rolls. 1 million voters were purged, right? So you got to check your status.
So just so people understand what that means right quick, there were 1 million people who were eligible to vote and were registered to vote. And over the past year, so to speak, the state of Florida went through and they removed those names off of there without telling those people. And
Right.
You very well may be one of those people, to just make that real plain. But please go ahead, my brother, on the importance of that part.
So whether you think you're purged or not, the most important thing that you can do is to check your status, right? You may have moved in the last year, right? Your signature may have changed. You may be overseas right now, right? You need to check your status and register to vote based on your last residential address, right? Let's say you have a son or daughter that's at Florida A&M or Bethune-Cookman, right? And they're away at college. They can either register at their address on campus, or they can register for their address back home in Fort Lauderdale or in Homestead, right? So you need to make sure that your address is current for the address that you're going to be registered. And once you're registered, you're in the game, right? You have the same currency as a billionaire. The billionaire doesn't have a more important vote than you.
Cool. So in saying that, we want to reiterate to everybody once again, pull out your cell phone. You can scan that QR code that's on the screen right there. It'll take you to the website. Now, I've gone on the website and I had to go on there myself when I was changing my party affiliation because I wanted to vote in the primary, and it's not the most user-friendly site. So I just want to caution anybody, man, you going on that website, you might run into some glitches and some, especially if you're not really computer savvy, but don't quit. You only gonna get what you strive for. So in saying that, Marlon, let's get into these. We talked about the deadline to register, which is October 7th. We talked about the purging of the ballots and the important thing, which is checking your voter status. Now let's talk about the deadline to request the ballot by mail, which is to vote by mail, which is what people call the absentee ballot. It's October 24th. But get into that part a little bit more. What an absentee ballot is, what vote by mail is, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so here in South Florida, here in the state of Florida, as a Florida resident and a Florida citizen, you have 3 legal ways to vote that are all safe and fair as you choose, right? I choose to vote by mail, but you have to request a vote by mail ballot. You have to do it online, and you have to do it by October 24th. What does that mean? A lot of people don't know, Brother Faisal. When you request your vote by mail, you can check online as to when they sent it. And then after you complete it, right? After you complete it and send it back, you can check online that they received it and processed it. But the most important thing about the vote by mail is that when you sign your ballot and you complete it and you put it in the envelope, your signature must match your signature on record.
Okay.
All right.
Very important.
Right? So you got to make sure that because your signature may have changed. You may be signing your name, Faisal XT, but this year you're signing it, Brother Faiz, right? And if that's your signature, that's your signature.
Yeah. Right.
And
so they got to match. And
Absolutely.
what happens if they so that is a way that some people call voter suppression, and that they will use that as a tactic to throw out your ballot. And some people are concerned about the absentee ballot. So what do you say to those people that are concerned about absentee ballots? You mentioned something important, that once you, and these are for the tech savvy people and people that just know a little bit more, that once you can track your absentee ballot from the time you get it, you send it. It just like you track a FedEx package or
Absolutely.
a postal package, you could track. Are you saying, Marlon, you could track your absentee ballot like that?
Absolutely. And you can, and if you're really serious about it, you can go down to the elections department and check to make sure that it was processed correctly at the canvassing board, right? So it's safe and it's fair. But the most important thing is that it's not really suppression. You just got to follow the instructions based on the law, right? Whatever the law that has been passed, you need to make sure they want to know that Marlon Hill, who resides at X address, signature on his driver's license is the same signature that's on his voter registration. Is he who he says he is associated with this ballot? And if you look at my driver's license, you will see this signature that is pretty much the same as my driver's license, right? And if if there's a problem with the signature, you put your contact information right here, right? Contact information right here, so that they can send you an affidavit or they can call you to correct it. So the key is for your vote by mail, follow the instructions, right? And the last thing I would say about vote by mail, this ballot, even though I'm going to drop it in the mail, and the postage is already paid for, it's free postage. This physical ballot has to be in their possession by 7 p.m. on November the 5th. So you can drop it off at an early voting location in the drop box on the outside. Let's say you decide, you know what? I don't want to vote by mail anymore. I'm going to vote early vote. So you turn it in and say, Madam Clerk, I want to vote a physical ballot. They mail ballot, they destroy it, and then you vote a physical ballot. Right? And for folks that may be watching us online who are living, working, studying overseas, you have the right to vote too. Right? And you have to request an absentee ballot in the same way. You only will be able to vote on the federal elections, the president, U.S. Senate, but you have the right to vote as well. So that's vote by mail. Very simple, very easy, very safe. and if you have a busy schedule, or you may be out of town, or you're away at college, vote by mail is the way to go.
And that deadline for vote by mail is October 24th. And, for those procrastinators that are out there, man, don't wait. You just never know what's going to happen. Get online, put up that QR code, Jess, and let them, so that people can get it. We remind them throughout this thing that you can go on right now. You can scan the QR code that you're going to see on the screen, and that QR code is going to allow us or allow yourself, there it is, and it's going to allow you to go ahead and register for that absentee ballot, so that, one, like Brother Marlon mentioned, you have the absentee ballot. You could vote by mail, or if you choose to, on the day of election day, that you can go in there with your absentee ballot, give it back to them and tell them I want to vote in there. But now you got options, but you can't have options if you do not prepare. Now, That's October 24th. The first thing is vote by mail. Now let's talk about the early voting, which is going to start on October 26th, Marlon.
Yeah, early voting is so key. We as citizens, our elected officials who we voted in their infinite wisdom, provided a budget to pay for extra resources to allow us extra days to vote, right? So early voting is going to begin in October 21st here in South Florida. 7 a.m.
It's the 21st, not the 26th, the 21st?
October 21st. October 21st.
Okay.
October 21st, all the way to November the 3rd, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is how early voting works. Let's say you live in Miramar, but you work in Coral Springs, and you say, man, you know what? Right, I'm gonna go down. I want to vote today, right after work. You're leaving work at 5 p.m. in Coral Springs. There's an early voting location in Coral Springs. You can go to vote at that location, even though you live in Miramar. Let's say you got to pick up the kids at school on the way from work, and you don't have enough time to go and vote at the location in Coral Springs. Just get to the location in Miramar before 7 o'clock. So early voting, you can go to any location. You need to take a photo ID with a signature, passport, military ID, driver's license, state ID. And let's say you don't have any of those 4 IDs, Faisal. You can take a debit card with your signature, and you can take another ID with a photo, and 2 of those IDs can make 1.
Got you. So does that mean like you can use your work ID with your debit card? Would that count? If your work ID has a picture on it? Yeah.
2 IDs. You need 2 official IDs.
Okay. Got you. Very important. So 10/21, I'm gonna remember that. That's my wife's birthday. Hey, baby. But 10/21, that is the beginning of early voting. And the benefits of early voting is the fact that on early voting within your county, you can vote at any one of the early voting sites that is in your county during the early voting time, which is going to be from October 21st to November 2nd. October 21st to November the 3rd, the day before. Oh, election day is November 5th this year. That's right.
November the 3rd.
October the 21st to November the 3rd is going to be the early voting window. That means anybody can vote at any one of the early voting sites in your county, where the county that you're registered to vote in, right? Particularly, we talking to Broward. That's our core audience, right? That you can vote anywhere in your county. And if you're watching us online from anywhere in your states, this is Civics 101. So just be mindful of the fact that early voting takes place in all states, all over the place. Find out what is going on in your area. So we covered absentee, we covered early voting. Now let's talk about election day, November 5th, big bro.
Hey, that's the big day. This is your last
that's the
chance,
Super Bowl
as they would say. Last chance to get in the dance.
Absentee and early voting is the playoffs, and then you got the Super Bowl on November 5th.
That's a Super Bowl, and in order for you to have a ticket, you need to be registered. And the most important thing, you got to know where your seat is. Don't be walking up into the Super Bowl thinking that you can go and sit at the 50-yard line when your seat is up in the rafters. You got to go to your assigned precinct. Election day, you must know your assigned precinct. So when you check your voter status, your voter status registration online is going to tell you your name, your address. It's going to show your date of birth. It's going to show where your precinct location is on election day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Brother Faisal. This is very important because people they think they know their precinct, but because of redistricting, they changed their precinct. So you may think it's the church down the street, but it's actually the community center across the way. You got to know your precinct, right? Because if you show up to the wrong precinct at 6:59,
you're done.
If you show up at the wrong precinct at 6:59 p.m., you may be out of luck because you're in the wrong place. And this is the reason why you have to have a voting plan, right? You need to be registered. You need to do your research on the candidates and the ballot amendments. You need to decide if you're going to vote by mail, are you going to vote early, or you want to vote election day. And some people like to go on election day. Some people like that energy.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But you need to know what your precinct is. You need to go with your ballot already prepared, your homework. You did your research. You have a picture of it on your phone, or you have an actual copy. And some people don't know this, Brother Faisal, whether it's early voting or election day. Let's say you need help. Let's say you're a senior, or you have developmental disabled, or you're physically disabled. You can sign an affidavit and bring
someone
with you, an assistant.
Okay.
And you got to give.
Please finish your thought. You got to give.
Yeah, you got to sign an affidavit and say, I want to bring my aunt, or I want to bring my friend to help me. To help you in whatever way. You have the right to bring in someone with you to the polls, early voting or in person on election day. Just sign an affidavit and you can bring that person.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you said something very key, which is you got to have a plan, because when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And, just keeping it 100, man, politics is a game. And if you don't know the rules of the game, then you can't, expect to play the game without incurring fouls, getting kicked out, getting soccer, you get a red card. You gotta follow the rules of the game. And one of the important rules too, man, is knowing who you're voting for and what your issues are. So we got about 5 more minutes, man, left in our broadcast, brother. Let's get into the conversation about the sample ballots. Jesse just pulled it up a little while ago, but let's talk about, the importance of preparing. We covered absentee ballots. We covered early voting. We covered voting day. The QR code is still on the screen for everybody that's there, so you can go on and register. The deadlines, we mentioned them. Absentee ballots, the deadline for absentee ballots is going to be October 24th. The deadline for registering to vote is October 7th. So find out over the next day or so whether or not you've been purged off of the ballot, off of the voting rolls or not. And now let's talk about the sample ballot, knowing what's going on a little bit, Marlon, and then we could call it a wrap for this episode.
Yeah, this is really key, right? So most people don't vote because they're not informed, or they don't feel confident that they know what's on the ballot. So you got to put in some work. You really got to put in some work. This is your responsibility. You have well over 1.1 million registered voters in Broward. You have about 1 million in Palm Beach. You have about 1.4 or 5 million in Miami-Dade County. South Florida accounts for over 30% of the total voters in the state. Right? And it's very important that we get prepared. And one way to do that is that when you check your voter status, all you really have to do is put in your name, your date of birth, and it can give you the sample ballot that is directly connected to you and where you live, right? You just put in your status, and it will print out your sample ballot. Then you got to do some work, right? We're going to be voting on president. You're going to be voting on U.S. senator. You're going to be voting on U.S. Congress. Right? You're going to be voting on state senate, state house. You're going to be voting on judges. You're going to be voting on school board. You're going to be voting on constitutional offices like sheriff and clerk of the court and tax collector and property appraiser. Right?
Yes.
And then you're also going to be voting on whether you're going to retain the justices You're going to be voting on county court, circuit court, Brother Faisal. Another big one, you're going to be voting on school board, right? And then you have 6 constitutional amendments on whether to say yes or no to put that law in the Constitution. 60% of us need to say yes in order for that constitutional amendment to become law.
It's 60%, huh?
60%.
Okay.
60%. 60% need to say yes. In addition to that, then you have municipal elections. You know, Sunrise, Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill.
That's your city.
You know, I'm down in unincorporated Miami-Dade, but there's several cities that have elections, mayors, city councils. These people make big decisions.
Miami Gardens got a big one going.
Miami Gardens.
Yeah, big ones going on. Yeah.
Right. So you got to do your research on who you're going to be voting for there as well. So it's a lot of work. It's about 4 or 5 pages. So you can't just walk in and wake up and go, I'm here to vote. What do I do? Because you're going to be sitting there going, okay, who are these people? What is this amendment about?
So in saying that, Marlon, just keeping it 100, man. A lot of us, we don't read like that. We don't study things like that. We don't even know where to go to get that information. We're overwhelmed. We already apathetic. We on the fence. Any advice for folks to better get an understanding of what you're breaking down right now?
Absolutely. I would go to vote411.org. I would start there.
Vote411.org. Okay.
You can research the candidates. You can research the amendments. You can get some insights. After Vote 411, you can just check out the editorials of the newspapers. What are they saying there? They interview some of these candidates. They review, right? WLRN, they have a voter's guide on information on the candidates and the amendments. Check with your union. Yeah. They may have ideas. Check with your homeowners association.
The port is on strike right now because of major issues that are happening. So, and Jesse got that on the screen right now. Right. What is that? Those are the amendments that are up.
Those are the amendments.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about the 60%, because the recreational marijuana, just came shy, I think 2 times already in the state of Florida for recreational marijuana, but this time it's up. And with 60%, that means that recreational marijuana will be legal in the state of Florida. So that's the important. Right. Just giving you a real example of the things that are on the ballot now, what has happened in the past. And so as we approach, our final minutes, Brother Marlon, we covered the 3 ways to vote, which is you vote by absentee ballot. We covered the deadlines for absentee ballot, and also the QR code. This is our action call to everybody that's out there. Man, we need you to just pull out your phone and test the QR code, just so we know as Video Mix continues to improve and strengthen our technological advancements, blah, blah, blah. We need you all to go ahead and just pull that out and see if this works and let us know that you're out there. So we covered the absentee ballots. We covered the early voting in the other one. I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, couple more things. Very important. You should not be afraid of politics. In fact, politics should be afraid of you. If you are eligible to vote, you're apathetic, you're disaffected, you think your vote doesn't count, I'm telling you that you are totally wrong, right? Because your vote is a currency that's in alignment with your values and your interests. Right? If you show up to early voting, or you show up on election day before 7 p.m. and for some reason you're not on the voting rolls, they don't have your name listed, but you know that you're registered, you have your ID, and you're ready, and they still tell you that you can't vote because they don't see you or they don't think that you are eligible, but you believe that you are, you need to ask them for a provisional ballot. Go to the clerk and say, "Clerk, I'm eligible. I'm 32 years old. I reside at Miramar Parkway, 3201. I know I may have been in some trouble in the past, but I got my rights restored last year, and I'm eligible. I'm telling you." And she says, "Mr. Hill, I'm glad you are a returning citizen. and you're ready to go, but you're still not on my voting rolls. And you say, Madam Clerk, I would like to have a provisional ballot to make sure that my vote is counted, and the canvassing board is going to verify that I'm actually eligible to vote. So you need to give me my provisional ballot.
You know, I'm glad you said that, Marlon, because I've actually experienced that myself. I changed my voting status one time. I went to the early voting site, North Dade Regional Library, that I've gone to forever and a day. And when I got there, they said that I wasn't even eligible. I was like, yo, I ran for office in Miami Gardens. Like, I voted for myself here before. What do you mean I'm not on the board? And they gave me a provisional ballot. So provisional, just remember, provide, you know, that's provide me with my provisional. And man, we've covered quite a bit. And as we one thing that we didn't get too much into, and we just want to touch on a little bit, you know, to not buy into the narrative so much, but this voter suppression, you know, what are some of the examples here in South Florida that, you know, folks should just kind of be mindful of, that our viewers should be a little mindful of?
Yeah. You know, so when you go to early voting and you go to your precinct, right, anyone that's volunteering for any of the campaigns, they're trying to give you flyers, they're trying to give you slate cards, you don't have to accept any of that stuff, right? In fact, all those folks have to be at least 50 meters away from the entrance to the voting location, right? You don't have to accept any slate cards, any flyers, because if you were watching Video Mix and in the mix of politics, you're already prepared. So you don't need any more information. You don't need to be convinced anymore, right? So no one should be impeding you, stopping you, any obstacles of you getting ready to go and vote, right? No phone calls. If you have anyone that's you feel intimidated, or you feel like you're being suppressed, or you feel like you're being impeded in any way, I want you to remember one phone number before I go: 1-866-OUR-VOTE. 1-866-OUR-VOTE.org. 866-OUR-VOTE.org. It's a nonpartisan. Lawyers on the line. They answer any questions about your currency, your right, your power. Anyone that's trying to impede your power, you need to let us know, and we will fix it, right? If you have any problems, Brother Faisal, at any early voting location, ask for the supervising clerk of that location that has been assigned. That person is responsible for resolving any issues or concerns that you may have about being suppressed, intimidated, impeded, whatever the issue is. The folks outside are they're bothering you too much, or they're trying to force you to vote a certain way. Go and see the supervising clerk, or you can call 1-866-OUR-VOTE and speak to one of the attendants there. They can answer any questions for you here in South Florida, anywhere in Florida, or anywhere across the United States.
So that's 866-OUR-VOTE. And if all else fails, you having a problem, ask for the manager. I need to talk to the manager, man. The supervising clerk, I need to see the manager, right? So listen, man, we covered quite a bit. One of the things that and we have a large population of our viewers, man, that are incarcerated currently, and many don't know that they still have the right to vote while they're incarcerated. We won't get into that right now, but we want y'all to keep this thing locked right here on Video Mix, and we're going to continue. We got a couple more episodes of the politics of South Florida voting coming up, man. Thank you all for riding out with us. Any last remarks, Brother Marlon, before we close out?
Use that power, man. The power means a lot. I know that you may feel disaffected or apathetic about whether or not your vote has an impact. I'm here to tell you, when the vote has an impact, right? And you got to use it with surgical precision. And so this is the time for you to kind of get prepared. If you feel disempowered in any way, we here at Video Mix are here to answer any of your questions. You can drop us an email note at the website, and we'll find the right person to answer your concern.
That's what's up, man. So once again, you see that QR code right now. Before we go ahead, pull your phone out, scan that QR code. Let's just see if that thing is working right. Marlon, man, thank you so much, brother. I know you got cases to to go and deliberate and litigate, and you got all kind of stuff going on, but you found it in your time, man, to come and do this this duty. And then in our upcoming episodes, everybody, we're going to get into the issues, get into the candidates, get into what's happening here in South Florida, around the country. So keep it locked right here on Video Mix, and God willing, we'll see you all in a minute. All right, peace.
It's politics time again. Are you gonna vote now? You people me attack. It's politics time again now. Are you gonna vote now? Deal with love and not war. It's the right and it's the duty of a citizen to vote. I upon them constitution. Last time it did a joke. Fed up of promises and hopeless hope. Ballot box must be empty. Vote